Most British troops have been pulled out of Afghanistan, the Prime Minister told Parliament today. But he stressed that Britain is not abandoning its commitments to the country. NTD's Anna Rodriguez has more on this.
In a statement to the Commons, Boris Johnson pays a tribute to the valour and sacrifice of the British troops who had served in the 2-decade-long conflict against the Taliban. He says most of the remaining UK military trainers with the NATO mission have already left the country.
All British troops assigned to NATO's mission in Afghanistan are now returning home, and for obvious reasons I will not disclose the timetable of our departure, though I can tell the House that most of our personnel have already left.
The pullout ends Britain's official role in the conflict, but there are fears that Afghanistan could descend once again into civil war. Britain's chief on the defence staff, Nick Carter, says it is plausible that the Afghan state will collapse without international forces there. But the Prime Minister says Britain will not turn its back on the war-torn country.
I hope that no one will leap to the false conclusion that the withdrawal of our forces somehow means the end of Britain's commitment to Afghanistan. We are not about to turn away, nor are we under any illusions about the perils of today's situation and what may lie ahead.
British forces were first deployed to Afghanistan in 2001 following the 9/11 attacks on the United States and played a major role in combat operation until 2014. A total of 457 British soldiers were killed in the country. Anna Rodriguez, NTD News.
A prenatal test used worldwide is sending gene data of pregnant women to a Chinese company. The company developed the test together with the Chinese military. Rosanna Philpott brings us this report.
A Chinese gene company that sells prenatal tests around the world has been harvesting genetic data from millions of women. The company, BGI Group, worked with the Chinese military to develop the tests. BGI is using the genetic data for sweeping research on population traits. The US sees it as a security risk. Government advisors warn that BGI's vast bank of genomic data could give China a path to economic and military advantage and potentially lead to engineered pathogens or genetically enhanced soldiers.
I want to know what is happening with such sensitive data about me, such as my genome and that of my child.
This is Amelia. She's one of the more than 8 million women who have taken the BGI prenatal test. The 32-year-old office administrator spoke to Reuters on the condition that only her first name be used. She says she did sign consent, saying that her genetic data would be stored and used for research. What she did not realise, however, was that her information could end up in mainland China. BGI's headquarters and research are based in Shenzhen, but the form she signed did not make this clear. It said only that her sample would be sent for analysis to Hong Kong.
I have to admit that the news that my data could have been taken over by the Chinese government is shocking for me. After reading the form, I had the impression that I was well informed about the test and how the data would be used. There was information that, if I agree to it, it can be used for further studies to improve the method, but no, there wasn't much else.
BGI said it had never been asked by the Chinese government to provide the genetic testing data for research. The company's prenatal test, branded Nifty, is one of the most popular in the world. It's sold in at least 52 countries, though not in the United States. Tests like this, taken about 10 weeks into a pregnancy, capture DNA from the placenta in the woman's bloodstream to detect fetal abnormalities like Down syndrome. The tests don't carry names, but they do capture genetic information about the mother, which the test's privacy policy says may be shared for national security reasons. BGI said it hasn't been asked to do that. Online records reviewed by Reuters show that the genetic information of at least 500 women, including some outside of China, are also stored in China's National Gene Bank. Each row seen here is a different woman. Reuters could not determine if Amelia's data is in the gene bank. BGI records personal details such as women's country, height and weight. Researchers say this genetic big data can give clues to genes associated with, for example, bipolar disease or schizophrenia, link genes to height and body fat, and track viruses. While the procedure is private, the data is stored. Reuters found no evidence that BGI violated patient privacy agreements or regulations. BGI says it never has access to any identifiable personal data. The company says it only stores location data on women in mainland China and destroys foreign samples after 5 years. BGI's collaboration with the military on prenatal research has not been previously reported. The gene giant is a pivotal player in a genomics race between China and the US. An expert panel led by former Google chief executive Eric Schmidt said in March that the United States should recognize China's strides in biotechnology and AI as a new kind of national security threat. BGI did not respond to questions on its military collaboration or the national security threats that the US says its research poses. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the report reflected, quote, groundless accusations and smears of US agencies. Over in Poland, Emilia says that if she had understood the extent of BGI's secondary research, she would have chosen a different test.
This could be a very important matter when choosing a test. For me, it would be.
A group of German tightrope walkers recently broke a world record by walking over a mile, nearly 2,000 feet above ground. Their secret? Take it slow. NTD's El Rhodes brings us more.
Last Saturday, 4 German tightrope walkers set a new world record. They crossed 1.3 miles, almost 2,000 feet above ground in a Swedish valley.
So when I got closer to the anchor of this line, I screamed loudly. I don't really know why, it's maybe a mix of emotions.
The record-breaking feat took place in Laporten, a U-shaped valley in Swedish Lapland.
You know, when I started looking at bigger projects, I saw a picture of Laporten. I haven't seen Laporten in decades, and just when I saw it, I knew it had to be rigged and crossed.
The location he chose is breathtakingly beautiful, but also presents immense challenges.
This is hard because it's really exposed. It's 600 meters high. It's 2,150 meters, and it's really windy here sometimes.
Herterik, one of the tightrope walkers, shares his secret to making it across.
So I just focus on being very slow, being extremely clean, and just reaching the end.
At this time of year, the sun doesn't set, giving the highliners plenty of time to try for the record. Earl Rhodes, NTD News.
The director of the World Heritage Centre says some sites may be lost without future funding. With some countries now moving out of the pandemic, what challenges are the world's treasured places facing? NTD's Eddie Aitken brings us this report.
Sites on UNESCO's World Heritage List felt the impact of the pandemic as travel restrictions limited access. But while the organisation hopes to come out of the crisis stronger, it faces another challenge from lack of funding. World Heritage Centre Director Mechtil Rusler shares her concern.
If we are not able to safeguard the best places on Earth, which we have all agreed among all 194 countries, that these are the places we need to preserve, that the future generations have a right to see those places, I think we have failed.
The Kremlin and Red Square was Russia's first World Heritage Site in 1990. The status helped it become the most visited site in Moscow in 2019, with almost 3 million visitors. But the pandemic caused a tumble in those numbers. That's been a financial headache for the authorities, as tourist rubles are needed to fund crucial restoration projects. It's a similar story at World Heritage sites across the world. In Peru, the Inca city of Machu Picchu was forced to close for 7 months. Just the second time it had done so since it first opened to tourists in 1948. But while the shutdown hit cash flow, Rosler says it was a welcome rest for some popular locations. Venice saw a vast improvement in the quality of the famous canals that run through the city. Rosler says they used the pandemic months to draw up plans to help sites cope.
with a slow opening, we established also a task force on tourism to assist countries to rebuild better, meaning to have a more resilient tourism development and a strategy.
Governments of countries that host sites have a responsibility to care for these places. But the World Heritage Committee is struggling to support that effort, and it meets this month to decide whether to add more locations to its list. Resources are likely to be spread even more thinly.
I think the biggest challenge of the World Heritage Convention is that every year we get more sites on the list, but neither the staffing at UNESCO increases nor the funding increases fundamentally.
The World Heritage Committee has an annual budget of nearly £3 million and over 1,100 places on its list. Rosler says there is not enough money to pay for the safeguarding of all sites and warns that some may be lost in the future. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees. Thank you for watching our daily news show on YouTube. You can also watch our other programming on channel 190 on Sky TV or on Freeview via channel box on channel 271. In the meantime though, please give this video a like and hit subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.